Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Insurance Town. I'm the mayor, Heath Shearon, and the host of this podcast. And I'm pumped. As you can see, I got my good friend Mariah hanging out with me here today. And I'm excited because I know this conversation is going to be a good one. And I couldn't do this without my sponsors, so I do want to give a shout out to Canopy Connect, your one-click solution to getting the deck pages you need to quote your prospects. And not only that, but you get the driver's list, you get the loss runs. They have an intake platform. They have so many cool things with the trailhead that you can have your customers choose their own adventure and how they engage with you and how you engage with them. Go to usecanopy.com/Heath and check it out. Get a discount, book your demo, the whole 9 yards. Also, my good friends over at OneFort AI. My good friend Caleb just went over there and joined my other friends at Toby and Tony and the whole crew over there. They do such a great job. It's AI for insurance agencies, and they're saving agencies so much time on the commercial side of things. And go check them out at onefort.ai. They're saving agencies thousands of hours already, and they got some big things coming. Make sure you tell them the mayor sent you. That's onefort.ai. And lastly, my friends over at Mav. Go to hiremav.com, ditch the call center, use a text messaging platform in order to engage and qualify and hand off great prospects to your producers every single day and save that time and be more efficient in your agency. Thank you so much to my sponsors. Thank you for you guys for engaging with them. And I can't wait for this conversation. So I will bring in now my good friend in Mariah Gates. What's going on, sister?
Man, I'm just trying to keep up all this AI stuff and everything's moving so fast. So I'm over here just trying to keep up with everybody.
Dude, it's nuts. Absolutely nuts. And it seems like every day there's something new, or I'll talk to someone that, I'll have a conversation with them one day and it's like, yeah, we just implemented all this new stuff with Claude. And the next time I talk to them, it's like, oh, we scrapped all that. Now we're doing this. So we were using this company. Now we're using this, right?
That's a problem in itself, right? All of the jumping around. So yeah, but there's so many options. It's easy to do.
It is so easy to do. And I don't think there's, anything wrong with the idea of playing around with things and testing and trying out things. But I don't know. I just, like you said, it's just so much trying to keep up with it all. I wasn't in the business, and I don't think you were either, in like the early late 90s, early internet days. But I could imagine it's probably similar to those days of like, oh, we got to do this, we got to do that, right? I would imagine.
I mean, yeah, they say that the AI age is definitely a bigger disruptor than the internet and originally, but I can only imagine trying to do everything from paper and then trying to learn how to use a computer and run your business and help customers and do everything else. Like, what a huge learning curve. I mean, at least the hardware that we're used to, which is the computer, is the same. It's just the software that's different now.
Yeah, that's so true. Okay, so we're already jumping in here hot and heavy, but I did want to have the audience that may not know who you are, been living under a rock and don't know who Mariah Gates is. Let's do a quick walk down memory lane and tell the audience who Mariah Gates is and what brought you to where you are today. All the good stuff in 2 or 3 minutes or less, just so we can know who you are.
Yeah. So easy, quick description is I am a Christian entrepreneur disruptor in the insurance space. That's pretty much who I am. I got here through the banking industry and then as an insurance agency owner. And I always joke that insurance agents kind of bullied me into the business I'm in today because I just have a knack for it. So started really implementing like CRMs and automation in my own insurance agency, had success with it, and people started asking me for help. And so was created Accelerated Automation, which we have had many iterations of over the last 7 years, because it's very different trying to create a professional services, coaching, CRM, building integration, system marketing kind of company when you're used to insurance where you don't create the product at all. You sell somebody else's product, you don't control distribution, anyways, any of that. So we've learned a lot here over the last 7 years, but I'm also a mom and a wife and have married to the love of my life, been with him for the last 21 years. He's my rock, have 2 beautiful children who are driving me crazy because they're teens and preteens, but I love them so much. and have built this awesome company where we get to work with insurance agents every day, helping them make sense of all of these options and choices and decisions around technology, and then actually implementing, building, and helping them through that change management process in their agencies. So that's who I am, and that's what we do.
Ah, man.
I didn't even take me 2 minutes. That was quick.
I gotta say, no, I love that you led off with Christian entrepreneur, and this is my show, so I can say whatever I want to. And people that know and listen to me for 335 episodes, they know it. I as well, am a Christian and an entrepreneur, and the fact that you lead with that, number one, and number two, because knowing that your business came out of a servant heart and came out of serving other people. When you first started doing this in your own agency, and people started asking you to help, you probably weren't even thinking about a business. It was just like, oh, here's a way I can serve my, fellow, insurance agents and friends. And what was, like, early on, if you could put that back on, what was that for you when people started asking you and knowing that Christian mindset and that servant mindset? Kind of what was that for you?
Yeah, I mean, to be totally honest, which I always am, I really didn't have, oh my gosh, so bad. I get myself in trouble. But I really didn't have that servant mindset back then. I described myself as like an oversharer. I mean, I even, like, one of my favorite email campaigns I sent to one of sent out to our clients when I started using automation was about how to make your avocados last longer by putting them in a water bath in your fridge. That's the level of oversharing I am. Like, I found that, and I constantly throw out avocados in my home. And I was like, oh my God, this is so cool. And I wanted to share it with all my customers. Don't worry, I also posted it on social media. And because I just want to tell, as I find things that make my life better, I've just kind of born that way. But I didn't have the Christian leader mindset back then, servant mindset. I just didn't. That evolved really over the last 5 years as my husband went down his journey with sobriety. He was an alcoholic for 10 years and became a Christian himself, went to church, got baptized. A couple of years later, got sober. And that really pushed me more into my faith. And leaving my insurance agency, selling my insurance agency, allowed me to speak more freely about my faith and kind of, like you said, this is your podcast. You can talk about whatever you want. But when you're under an umbrella of another organization, you're also kind of jointly representing their values. And so you have to be a little bit more politically correct, I guess I would say. But when you're on your own, like you and I in this situation, we can say whatever we want and we can be true to those values. So I didn't have that mindset back then, but I did just know that it was helping me and I wanted to help others. So when I first started doing this, no business in mind, the founder of the tech company that we predominantly work in, he also asked me to help agents in kind of an official capacity. And I said no for many months because I was already recording Loom videos and putting them out on our Facebook groups and just trying to help as much as I could, answer questions. I was always on social media answering questions. But I had 2 little kids. I had a business. I had a life. I didn't want a second business. I prayed about it for months before I said, all right, maybe the Lord's trying to tell me something here. Let's give it a shot. And, that was 7 years ago. It was just me. I charged my first client, who was also a friend, $500 to build out his entire CRM, which took me months. And, now we have 15 employees and need more and have helped almost 1,000 agencies nationwide. So it's all through the grace of God. That's why I start with that, because none of this would be possible without him.
Dude, and I love that. And I think it's great. And what's crazy to me, is, like you mentioned, you've got 15 employees now. You're helping, tons of agencies. And I still see the stats every single year that come out of only 25% of agencies or less, or maybe a little bit more than that, or even using a CRM or using automation, so to speak. That's crazy to me. And you're still able to help that many people and staying up a business in that. Do you feel like there is, with that being said, and that mindset, as you shake your head knowing that stat, that there's blue ocean there and there's a lot of room for more people to come in and finally start using CRMs? Or you still think there'll always be this challenge of people saying, I don't need a CRM. I'll just keep using my spreadsheets.
No, I think that the spreadsheet era is aging out of the industry, right? So if we know anything about the insurance industry, it's that there is massive consolidation. M&A is through the roof. I mean, shoot, I was just last week with Marshberry in Las Vegas. They were talking about some of those statistics. It was mind-boggling to me. But the average insurance agent, is a male over the age of 55. And so they are going to retire eventually. And incoming is these newer generations people like myself and younger who grew up in the internet world, and we don't really know anything else. You make us work on a spreadsheet or a piece of paper, we get a little irritated. We're the DoorDash, Uber, Amazon generation. We want it now. We want it yesterday. We don't want to wait. If it's going to take 2 days, we're going to cancel and order it from somebody else, that's faster. So I think that the industry is catching up with the rest of the different industries that have always really been sales focused, like banking and mortgage, which have had these tools for a long time. But the insurance industry tends to be a little behind. They're starting to catch up.
Yeah. And I've always equated that catch up, so to speak, to the fintech or to other industries. I blame it, so to speak, on pandemic. I blame it on that because before that, and I always do pre and post pandemic, I feel like we were light years behind everyone else in 2019, 2018, beyond. And now since then, we've had that happen because I guess we were forced to. Would you say, or do you think it was just happened to be right time, right place? There's never a right time for a pandemic, but I mean, do you think our industry and the InsurTech was kind of positioned the right place at the right time during that time? Because now we're all at home. Go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, it definitely forced a ton of industries and businesses to really think about how they operate. Obviously, it's greatly exasperated the work from home movement. I talked to my sister about this because she's been working from home way before the pandemic, like 10 years before that. That was, she was working from home. So there was always those type of individual people, but it really pushed it. And you can't work from home and run your agency on an Excel that's downloaded to one computer. You also can't run an agency if you're work from home on a legal pad. I met with an agency yesterday, and he told me on the call, he's like, this is my operations manager. She's in charge of technology. She's so techie. And I made a joke about a legal pad, and she showed me her legal pad that she uses to track all the things that she does. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. That was so rude to you. She's like, no, it's true. I have to stop using this stupid thing because you leave you can't see that information from one location to another. So yeah, I think that the pandemic really it shined a huge light on how archaic the system was, how fragile the operations were, all driven off of paper and really old systems. So it did push people. But I think this change probably would have happened anyways. Again, because the demographic of the average insurance agent is aging out of the industry, and new people are coming in, they are going to expect very different types of organizational setups and systems available to them for them to do their job well.
And I think we're hearing, more and more and more over the last 5 or 6 years, this idea of the tech stack and building your tech stack and connecting. Because again, I guarantee you there's still agencies out there, maybe even listening, I hope not, that are still in file cabinets and not even have an AMS for that matter. But I feel like at least 99% or 98%, whatever the stat is, of agencies at least have the AMS. But as people are learning to connect to that and build off of that, I think we've seen a shift from, people just getting into that and finally getting off file cabinets to swinging all the way to the side of now they're trying to connect anything and everything, and they've got new tools. And like we said at the beginning of the show, even, I tried this, I'm off. I'm here and that, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, and as you and I talk on a regular basis about some of this stuff, since you like to be honest and whatnot, what are some of the things that frustrate you the most when you talk to agencies about building their tech stack and some of the immaturity in that and some of the things that you've seen that kind of bother you and some of that, if you don't mind?
Yeah, of course. So I would say the things that bug me is tech for the sake of tech. Like they just know I need a digital agency and I want all the things. And they add a bunch of pieces. It's just a lot more browsers and tabs for their staff to go to. It's not well thought out. It's slapped together and it results in employee burnout and frustration. And then they don't use the tools. They also underutilize the tools. So we see a lot of overlaps, like bloated tech stacks. And that has only been in the last maybe 3 years. Because before we'd ask about tech stack and it was like, well, my email, my AMS, my phone, maybe a rater. And that was it. We're like, okay, so you probably should have a website. You probably should have, like you mentioned, Canopy Connect, amazing tool. Love it. I loved that tool. I was an early adopter. Great way to sell insurance based on value and comparisons. But, so there was no tech stack. And then we had all these tens of millions of dollars dumped into insurance tech, all these startups, all these agents who were building technology for things that like Peter over at WonderWrite. He's a great example. He was an agent in a commercial agency who was like, there's got to be a better way to do this. And he had a vision and he built a really great platform that helps agents. So those things are happening, which is wonderful when solutions come from within the industry, but agents just keep buying it. Like, this agent uses that, so I have to have it. And this agent uses that, or I'm just going to buy, I keep hearing people talk about Canopy or WonderWrite and I'm buying it, but I don't really know why I'm buying it or what problem I'm trying to solve. So tech for the sake of tech drives me crazy. We have calls with agencies all the time who are getting directives from leadership to build a digital agency, and they skip the foundations. That bothers me a lot because they just add like speed to chaos, and it is such a mess. And I wish I could get them to slow down and stop and take a breath and look at their culture. What has change management been like in the past? How do their employees feel about tech? Talk to their employees. You wouldn't believe how many agencies we ask them, like, what do your employees complain about? What is the thing that is really hard for them, or the most time consuming? It takes a lot of friction, or it causes lots of friction, and they don't know. They haven't asked their employees. So you're solving problems that you don't even know if they exist in your business, just kind of for the sake of tech. Drives me crazy. I could talk for a whole hour just on this topic. Well, but if I could get people to slow down and start with the problem and build the foundation, that is so much cleaner, and you can scale that.
To your point, so many agency owners that I talk to or consult with or talk to at conferences when I come off stage, it's like, they're wondering why they're not getting adoption when it comes to, like, they're assuming they know what's wrong. Like, they'll see, especially back in the and again, I could say this is my show, in the heyday of the IAOA, everyone all of a sudden became a tech founder, and all these people were like, oh, I'm going to sell this or that. And people would buy it from their buddies, but they didn't, they just assumed that there was a challenge there. Or the other one that bothers me is, oh, like, the agency down the street's using this, I've got to. Or because I heard, so-and-so's using it, I have to. Like, you might even have the same challenge as that person. Or your agency may be built in a different way altogether. Your staff's different, all the things. So to your point, I think if you're in that spot right now listening and you're like, why can't I get adoption? My team's this or that. Well, maybe not your team's fault. Maybe it's yours because you haven't sat down with your team to say, hey, where are our challenges? Where are our bottlenecks? Where do you feel like we could use this before you just come home from the next conference and say, hey, I bought this tool. We're implementing
free software. Yeah, definitely. Rolling it out too early, not talking to your team, not bringing them along. But the other reason that it's important to talk to your team, if you look at your tech stack and you're like, we have all this stuff we don't use, and my team, I'm not getting the results that I want. And if you take a step back and you didn't solve any of the problems they brought to you, but you were solving problems you wanted fixed from the business perspective, you're not going to get buy-in. They're not going to come along with you. So for example, we started automating and controlling customer service in our agency because sales tracking is actually a lot easier than tracking customer service and trying to figure out what the heck is your service team doing every day? What is the volume, the results? How do our customers feel about us? These are all things that are really hard to quantify and track. But when we first started doing that in my agency, my office manager wasn't super excited about it, but I asked her what she hated doing the most. Like, what do you hate? If you could remove this part of your job, you would just be happier every day. And she said, late payments. I hate calling and telling people they owe money. I hate tracking them down. It just sucks. So the first thing that we automated was late payments. And she was like, oh my gosh, what else can we automate? This is awesome. But that's the level of excitement you want from your team. Find the problems, the things that drive them batty, that almost on bad days push them over the edge to wanting to leave your agency, and fix that. Because now they're going to be like, what else can we fix? And what else can make my job better? And now the whole team is pushing for change. Also, be mindful and aware that you're going to have people who will never assimilate and will always push back on change, and those people will have to go. They won't be able to stay with you if you really want to build a digital agency.
Yeah, and here's the other thing is, so I appreciate that, because I was going to ask you, which you already beat me to it, of like, what's the first thing you would tell people to do, which I feel like you just answered would be to talk to your team about it. But one of the things that I think people just need to understand, and again, if you've listened to 335 episodes or whatever, I come from the Vertafore background, and I was on contract with them, and I was in their ecosystem, and I heard it all the time of, I just bought CRM system, X, and it's so hard to do, so hard to put together, so hard to customize and do all this. And you could insert any CRM here, and you're going to probably have those same things. And so people that think, I'm just going to buy this CRM or buy this tool and just out of the box plug it in, it's just going to work beautifully like a lamp. You just turn a switch on. It doesn't work that way. There are no tools out there that just open the box, plug it in, and go. Am I wrong there? Am I right there? And I
but that applies to all tech. Like even think about, like, we can even pull a way out of business, not insurance, pull out of business. Think about in your own personal life. Have you ever got a software, like maybe you're going to get QuickBooks or Quicken or like, I don't know, the Dave Ramsey Money app or something like that. You don't ever get to download it and turn it on and it works for you. That's not how it works. You got to connect your bank accounts. You got to put your budget in, like whatever the app is, right? Maybe it's a exercise app. You got to put in your height and your weight. You got to do all these things, right? You put your goals in and your level of activity. I always hate that one because I'm like, oh, I stand at a desk for 10 hours a day. No activity. That's really depressing. But my point is that there is no software like this. Nothing you just turn on. Even if, like, email, think about how we all had to learn how to use email in the beginning. I have a 12 and 13-year-old. They are learning technology. They use it at school. They use Teams. They are learning this. So there is no magic bullet where you just get to turn it on and use it. You need to think about it. You need to spend time doing the demo and playing with the trial. There's a reason that large organizations have a CTO, Chief Technology Officer. They have a COO, Chief Operations Officer. They have, all of these different heads of the different pieces of the business, marketing and finance and everything, because they're very unique skills that take a long time to cultivate and to understand the right way to do it. So software is never a quick fix. That's not the point. It is a really odd misconception. I feel like you could have related to this. Okay, we're in insurance industry, right? Who loves that Progressive, is it Progressive? No, it's Geico. Who loves that Geico came out with save 15% in 15 minutes? We all hate that because it changes the conversation to fast and money and budget. And that's not what insurance is.
Their customers the wrong way.
The wrong way. It taught them that that insurance should be quick and cheap. Okay, well, yeah, if you literally want like the worst insurance in the world, yeah, it should be quick and cheap. But if you actually want some damn coverage, it's going to be longer and it's going to be more expensive. But that is kind of what software is in the insurance industry. Like they think, I'm going to buy it and turn it on and it's great. It's quick and cheap. But they're not thinking about like the long term. If you're always thinking quick and cheap, you will have quick and cheap results, just like you'll have quick and cheap insurance. So you have to be mindful, methodical, intentional in these changes, think it through, understand how it will integrate, how will it plug into your workflow. If you don't have a workflow, you should start there. That's where you're at, ground zero. Got to make a workflow first. And then you put in your technology. And then it is a living, breathing thing in your business. So when you mentioned all these people changing platforms every couple of months, that is extremely disruptive and detrimental to a business. We have clients that we've worked with a few years ago on Agency Zoom, because that's where we work in. Then they said, oh, Go High Level is the next best thing. So I'm going to go to Go High Level. So they switched everything over there. Then they went to Insured Minds, or they went over to Better Agency or Agency RM or like whatever, right? They just bounced around in ecosystems and then come back 2 or 3 years later. We've had 4 CRMs in 4 years and our data is a mess and my team's irritated and we just want to go back to what works. And I'm like, okay, do you have any idea how much time and money you just wasted over the last 4 years? Don't break things that aren't broken. Like measure, use things that work, but you cannot have that much change that fast in an organization. You'll just burn your people out and piss everyone off.
Well, and on the flip side of that, I shouldn't say the flip side of it, but on another side of that coin is that people that stay with something and they don't use the full extent of it. I talk to so many people, even prior to, my days at Big Orange of like, this technology didn't do what I expected it to do, or, I'm only using it for this. And I'll be like, hey, have you ever tried this? I'm sure you have these, mind blowing moments when you're on calls with people like, I didn't know my system did that. It's like they're only using like I will say 50% to be generous, but they're only using 50% of what the tech can do. And I'm one of these. When I was an agency owner, I'm sure you were the same way. I work hard to earn that money, and if I'm going to spend that on this technology, I'm going to use it. Like I'm one of these. Like if we go to a restaurant, we're taking leftovers home. I don't care if it's 3 bites of a sandwich, kid. You're taking it home, and you're eating it for lunch tomorrow. If you leave one slice of pizza, we're taking it home because I'm getting my money's worth out of that pizza. And I think the same thing in my tech. If I'm going to buy a piece of tech, and I know I'm guilty of this today, so I can't say I'm perfect at it, but use the full extent of what you buy. I'm sure that's an epidemic that you see.
100%. So a good, easy example is most of the insurance industry, 90% runs off of the Microsoft ecosystem, right? We use Outlook for our email. We use their calendar, probably Teams in your office to chat, all these different tools. And then I see agencies out there buying like Jotform, for example, or they'll buy Calendly. Now, these are wonderful platforms. I have nothing against them. But did you know that you have Microsoft Forms and you have Microsoft Bookings included? You don't have to buy any extra tech, and it actually integrates. Like, look at the systems you have to solve problems. And then if it really isn't there, you've dug in, then you go look for other solutions. This is very common in even like, I'll use Agency Zoom as an example. I'll use the calendar as an example. Again, I went and bought Calendly. Did you know that Agency Zoom has a built-in calendar scheduling system? Like that's free and it's built in. Calendly is way more robust, but if all you're doing is sending emails, offering appointments, that one works just fine. So that's why I kind of said like bloated tech stacks, like all these pieces, they're disjointed. They use parts of them. There's people that have Canopy Connect that just use it for deck pages, but there's intake, there's loss runs, there's commercial policies. So, having a good contact with your customer success manager at your tech companies that you work with, like touch base with them first before you go buy something. But this is where people get lost. They feel like they're so far behind with tech already because they don't have AI in all areas of their business. Just so you know, nobody has AI in all areas of their business. The biggest organizations don't, because they're trying to figure out how to put parameters around it and rules and make sure it's effective. They have to have a human in the loop still. They have to make sure they have consumer adoption. There's got to be compliant. There's so many variables, you guys. You're not behind. If you're working and looking at your business critically and trying to build a good digital experience for your staff and your customers, you're just fine. If you have a file cabinet and you listen to this podcast and you're like, I'm never using technology, you're behind. Please put your agency up for sale and just move on, because eventually the business isn't going to be worth anything. It's going to shrink and you're going to be kind of up shit's creek. So I would definitely recommend you should be doing something, but don't get caught in this like rat race to the AI pinnacle that doesn't even exist yet. Just fundamentally each day work on your business and try to solve problems, and you will be ahead of 90% of the people in the industry. Plus, you will have done it intentionally.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think, there's so many things to unpack there, but, talking about the bloated, I love that terminology, the bloated tech stack, but I even equate it in conversations. I'm a sports guy, but I relate it to, NFL draft, and people are like, why would I draft? Even if it could be the best quarterback in the entire draft and you've got the number one pick, they may not pick that quarterback because they already have one. Maybe they've had a great starter that they've had for the last 2 or 3 years. They don't need another quarterback, so they don't draft that. And people scratch their head and be like, why'd you draft a lineman? Because we needed a lineman. Why would you double up, and get Calendly, so to speak, just use that example, when you already have Microsoft Bookings or Zoom Calendar or name it, whatever. You don't need to draft another calendar because you have that. Or, you don't need 2 CRMs. I know it's an extreme example. Nobody would do that. But, people
do it for sure. It happens. Just so you know.
Well, so I think there's that. But then I think you brought up a really good point. And I talk to people that say, it's that whole paralysis by analysis. Like, well, I'm too far behind. No, that's the beauty of AI. If you start baby steps today. In fact, I just led a webinar of AI 101. And there was, tons of agencies in that webinar. Like, I'm stuck at the starting gate, and they got $20 million revenue agencies, and I'm sure you met some of those people if you were at the Marshberry conference. Those are large agencies that are probably stuck at the starting gate. And you got agencies listening to this podcast now that range from startups to however many millions in revenue that are still stuck at the starting gate. So don't stand here and say, well, I'm too far behind, I'm not going to do it. No. start something. And so I say all that rambling to say, like, if you were to give someone advice on where to start, whether we'll start two questions here. You would think after this many years of doing a podcast, I'd be good at asking questions, but I suck at it. But so first question would be, if people are standing at the starting gate of like, okay, I've got an AMS, and maybe, they do have a CR, maybe they don't. What would you say to help build that tech stack? Where would they start?
Yeah. So what I would say in general is that your tech stack has to have a place to sync back into, which traditionally has been your AMS, could be your CRM now. So you do want to pick tools that have good integration, like good ecosystems. Because if you want to use something like a Canopy, or maybe you want to use Glovebox for your insurance agent app or whatever, if you want to do something like that, if your ecosystem where all of the data lives, like all your clients and your leads and stuff, is closed off, you're kind of screwed, right? Because now you are going to have disjointed systems. And when you look at AI, I really think that Anthropic and OpenAI have really proven to those who might not believe in integration that it is the future. Look at the number of connectors and the number of people who are taking the time to invest money in development to build MCP connections into tools like Claude and OpenAI and all these other platforms. ChatGPT, for those of you who might be newer into them, but they're taking the time to build this because they know that if they're not on those systems, they will flat out lose clients. I'm doing this in my own company currently. There's two platforms that we've had you guys for at least 5 years. They are a core piece of how we do business here, and they refuse to integrate. I've had conversations. Even the one that will, the cost is enterprise level. I have 15 employees. I'm not enterprise level. It is insane. Those who want to reduce or prevent integration are going to lose clients. They're losing me as a client. I'm moving all my data out or switching into systems that will only integrate. So this is what I would say is that you need to have something for your tools to connect to. There's a lot of great things out there. Agents used to tell me, why can't one system just do everything? Why can't we have a system that's an AMS and a Rater and a CRM and it's a marketing system and it's got my website and it's got Canopy and it's got forms and it's got raters and it's got AI tools and it's got conversation and voice? And I'm like, because nobody would buy it. It would be so expensive, you guys. Are you going to sign up for a platform that's going to cost you $10,000 a month? You wouldn't even look at it. These companies are like this because, to Heath's point, you're in all these different phases of your business. You're trying to solve different problems. You have different niches and different structures. So, but at the end of the day, you have to pick tools that integrate. So if you are on an ecosystem, if you're on not to throw too much shade, but if you're on Easy Links, I'll pray for you. They are not integration friendly. They just aren't. I wish they were. We have advocated for them to become that. We've had discussions with them, but I feel like they're shooting themselves in the foot. Maybe someone will send this to them and they'll go, okay, maybe we need to start looking at integration. I hope that's what happens because their agents deserve that. But you should pick systems that will communicate and will give you flexibility to use the tools that you want. That is step one.
So let me ask you this. You brought up something else in my squirrel brain. So I got time for a few more questions here, but okay, using the example of the whole Apple Android type ecosystems, whatnot. In our world, when you talk about AMS, CRM, there is, the big two, the big three, whatever you want to call it, whether you're blue or orange or you're a purple cow or whatever it might be. And now there's some other players in there. Would you say in our world that you would recommend to someone to be all one color, so to speak, one ecosystem? Or do you think there's room in there to mix and match if you really like Easy Links, but you want to work with, Agency Zoom, or you really like Hawksoft, but you also want to work with PL Rater or some other whatever? Do you feel like someone should go all in on orange, blue, or whatever it might be?
If you would have asked me that question 4 or 5 years ago, I would have said, you do you. You should pick the system that works best for you. Everyone has a preference. But, we have just under 1,000 agencies that have actually worked with us. We have built systems for them. We've coached and trained. And then we have thousands more because we talk to so many every day that aren't clients, but we get to see inside their agencies and talk about this stuff. And now, just do yourself a favor and pick things that connect and communicate. You can use, don't get me wrong, we have clients using Easy Links and Agency Zoom, but they have to work a hell of a lot harder to use those tools than someone on AMS 360 and Agency Zoom. It's just a fact, because the systems connect. And that company, like Vertafore, is very motivated to make their tools work well and seamlessly. But EasyLinks isn't super excited to like make their tools work with Vertafore's products because they're competitors. So just, we have to get out of our own, like, well, I have a preference. It's great. We can all have a preference. You do you. But think about how much like harder you're kind of making it on yourself. That would be my preference. If Epic had like a really great CRM, then I'd be like, you should use their CRM. If you're in that ecosystem, it's going to be simpler for you. But again, choose an ecosystem that is going to grow with you and that is going to allow integration.
Yeah, I equate that to like when you talked about kids earlier, raising my kids, and they would have the Legos, and then sometimes they would get given like the Duplo Legos or whatever that wouldn't fit with the regular Legos, and they get so mad. It would work, and they could build something with the Duplo Legos.
But like one Lego would be a little wonky because it didn't quite snap together.
Yeah,
that's a great analogy.
The frustration that my kids would have, and so I've used that with agencies, like, oh, that makes total sense. But then even me myself, like, I have an Apple iPhone, but everything else I use is Microsoft, and it's like people always like, why don't you just go to Android, or why don't you buy a MacBook and use everything that way? And I'm like, I don't know. But anyhow, so I'm kind of
you should reflect on that.
No. Yeah. I need to think about my life choices, but
I know, right?
Okay. So, that being said, okay. So good there. And then, okay. So in the AI realm, you brought that up a little bit, and I know this has something to do with, what you guys are doing, because, automation's a form of AI and whatnot, and you've got all that, but where would you say people that on the starting gate of like AI, like, where would they start there? Like, whether it's, I don't know if I say like ChatGPT or Claude, but like where to implement, whether it's marketing, whether it's, rewrites or proposals or renewals or whatever. Like, do you have any advice on that? And what are you seeing most people, getting the most success out of early?
Yeah. So
again,
of course. So where to start with it? Like, what should you start with? That question is like, again, what is your greatest need? So agencies, like, we've literally talked to agencies where they're like, we have so many leads coming in that our producers are like, could you please stop marketing? Okay. They don't need to start with AI for marketing. They don't. That would be stupid. They have too many leads. But if you're sitting there and you're like, man, I wish my phone would ring, I have no leads to call. Yeah, you should probably start there, right? That would be a great place to do it. A lot of marketing gets pushed off by agencies because we're just busy. We're trying to sell policies. So many agency owners are still at the front end of the company, selling and servicing and answering questions. And so it's just one of these things that like keeps not happening. And then you don't get the value of compiled marketing, like over time, the constant message. I used to never understand why companies like Pepsi and Coca-Cola still market it. I'm like, everyone knows who you are. And then it occurred to me that there's new human beings born every single day, and they don't always know who Pepsi or Coke is, and they definitely don't know who your insurance agency is. So you need to be marketing all the time. But my point is, like, where you should start is going to be based on where your agency's greatest need is. So if you are like, we've got a good amount of leads, that's working good. Sure, could you add AI there? Sure, you could, but maybe AI is better spent with your commercial renewal team, who is drowning in manually typing out accords and apps and supplements on a PDF, or worse, they're writing them by hand and sending them to underwriters. That would be a great place for AI, because you can use tools like Underwriter Assembly that have AI built in, where you create an underwriting database and that information is pushed to the document. That is an amazing efficiency, time saver. There's so many benefits to that. So there's lots of places to add AI. That has nothing to do with ChatGPT or Claude. Those are fun tools as well. But again, look for the need in the business, like what's taking too long and where is there better options out there. The only thing I would say is don't add AI, don't add bots to give access to your carriers. That is my big warning right now. It's happening. And it is a big no-no, and these carriers are aware, and it's going to bite you in the backside. So put it on lots of places. Always put it internal first. Optimize your people. You should free them up as much as possible to do all the people things. Call, talk to people, build relationships, build trust, remove friction so they can be people. And then voice AI is another great tool, but only when used correctly. When you use it wrong, it has detrimental effects. So those are kind of like a few things to think about when you're trying to pick where to put AI.
And I want to be mindful of your time, but I do have one or two more quick questions, and then I know you have a hard
time.
Good.
Let's do it.
We do too. In your own personal life, since you're an open book, where, and this is more of like a funny question than anything else, but where would you, if you could automate something in your life that takes you a lot of time in your personal life, what would you automate? Not necessarily technology wise, but it could be brushing your teeth. It could be taking a shower. It could be cleaning your horses. It could be what, if there's something that you could fantasy automate, to get done for you quicker, what would that be?
That's a tough one because we've really worked hard to do that so much. Like I have a housekeeper, we have a lawn care guy. My husband's a stay-at-home dad, so I don't do dishes or laundry. Like I'm pretty spoiled. I've automated a lot of my life, even if it's just like other human labor. I'm so grateful for that. I would say something personal that I don't like doing. I don't know, probably like, on the whole too much information path here. Probably shaving my legs. I hate shaving my legs. It's annoying.
There you go.
I've been married for 21 years, so I don't really have to, but I also feel like that's a little rude to my husband. I've been married. I've been with my husband for 21 years. Anyways, yeah, I would probably do that, but that would scare me. I don't know if I would let like some kind of AI driven robot thing with a razor near my leg. That would be a little terrifying.
It probably would be.
Yeah.
Okay. That's funny. And so the last thing I would get into, it's people have heard you talking about all these cool things, and you've mentioned your company and 15 people, and you've helped 1,000 agencies. And like, all right, but what is it? What does she do? So could you take a few minutes and tell the audience what is accelerated automation? What are you guys doing? And maybe like something new that you got going on, or something that you want to tell the audience about now if they wanted to hear about that.
Yeah, so we predominantly focus on the agency's new CRM. It was a small tech startup. Vertafore purchased it years ago, right? And we became an Orange partner with them. So we're all vetted and approved, and we really specialize in that tool. Now, we have evolved a lot into where we will provide, we call it tech ops, which is like your CTO, COO in a fractional capacity that you can hire our team for. So beyond just your CRM, working across other tech implementation, operations, creating SOPs and rolling out training, really helping to give you a department that can do the work when you have these big ideas, because lots of agencies know kind of what they want to get to, but they don't have the people to do the work that have the know-how and get there. So people can tap into our team, because all we do is live in tech and insurance and operations. We also do full custom like integrations between softwares. So we have a developer team here now, which we didn't have prior to October of last year. I actually acquired another company so we could offer that service. And if it's anything to do with like technology and insurance and CRMs, you can probably reach out and we'll be able to help you. And if we can't help you, this is the other thing, we are not for everybody. We're very, very honest about that. If we are not for your agency, we will tell you where to go. We stay pretty connected. This is the world that we live in. So we'll be able to tell you something like, you know what, you would be better suited with like Angela Adams, or you'd be better suited with Lava Automation. As you can probably tell, I'm happy to bring up like other competing companies in our space, because at the end of the day, we just want what's right for the agent. And we know who the agents are that we can serve, but we can't help everybody. Like I said, we only have 15 employees, and there's like, 35,000 insurance agencies in the country. So we will help direct you to the resources that you need, even if we can't help you out. Our website is acceleratedautomation.net, and I'm on all the socials, so you can find me anywhere on social media. I'm even on TikTok, which I actually never log into, but I'm on there.
Dude, thank you so much. Again, we're at time. I want to respect you, but thank you for everything. And thank you for being a good leader in our industry. And thank you for being a good friend to me. And just thank you for everything you've shared with us today.
Well, thank you for having me. Keep it up, Heath. You are changing the industry as well, and we appreciate you.
Dude, thank you.